So let us now turn to our final speaker, Patrice, and he will deal with the issues related to marginalization.
Thank you. Pardon.
Thank you very much. I wanted to thank you because we have heard two of the panelists who are talking, and Jackson also. I'm going to start with certain considerations that we've done, which is a lawyer's office that's supporting people who are fighting for their rights, people who live under the tents, and also peasants who are fighting for their land, and also people who are fighting against exploitation in the country of Haiti. As you said, there were 240 years ago there was an earthquake that destroyed Port-au-Prince in Haiti, and people forgot about it completely, and they started all over again, building the same way, and then we got to January 12 after that, 2010. This is an issue that is in relation with an issue of remembrance in Haiti, remembering, and we have noticed that also with the dictator Jean-Claude Duvalier, who came back to Haiti. It is as if you didn't feel like the citizenry stood up to say that the dictatorship, the period of dictatorship was bad for all those people who died during the dictatorship of Duvalier. People didn't talk much about it. There is a case that Jackson perhaps did not mention, did not underline. It is the one where there is a campus. There was a small child who was burned. January 11, 2014, a child was burned. It's something that was horrible. And after that, you heard the president of the Senate and also the president of the country, who's giving speeches after that, but they never made any reference to what happened. I think that Jackson does a very interesting job in the context of where there is a program that the United Nations has in Haiti that's called information that you're supposed to know about. But there are certain pieces of information that we don't need to know. And I think that what Jackson does is share with you the information that they don't want you to know, the news that they don't want to share with you. I have to say that the right to housing in Haiti before January 12, it was not really in the debate the national or international organization did not care about housing. They used to talk about civil rights, political rights, economic rights, but they never talk really about housing rights. If there is one issue that came up after January 12th, it is that the issue of housing, it has become very important. It has gotten priority, and now people pay attention to it. So on the issue of housing, it was always there, but January 12 made it possible for that issue to be really at the forefront. But one of those things that January 12 did not do, that's not really do, it is that it did not help to change, to help improve the judicial system that we have in Haiti. I thought that we would have a great internment of the very poor political system that we have now in Haiti, but that did not happen. That is the very first thing that I think that I have to say, that the housing issue cannot be analyzed within the context of Haiti. You have to look at it within the context of the entire country, the way the structure and strictures of the country. The issue of housing is not just building houses. There is lack of political will that the Haitian government never had to resolve this issue, to resolve this problem. Defending the right of people, the housing rights, it is something that's legitimate. It is even more than just legal. I say that it's legitimate. It is more than legal in the context that since the moment you're born, you need a space to live. You need a space to live like as a human being. After that, you're going to have the laws that are going to be elaborated to explain how to build, and etc. But in any case, one of the fundamental needs that human beings have, it is to have a space to live, a physical space to live. So, for us, defending human housing rights, it is more than just defending human rights. It is a question of legitimacy of social rights, the right of people to live like normal human beings. One of the first things that's going to make it difficult to respect that law in Haiti, it is what we call inadequation between the law text, on the text on the book, and the reality that we're living as a people in the country of Haiti. We have a series of rights. We have a series of laws that are out of date, and we don't. And I don't know why we say that the system should go on, because these kinds of laws help to keep the system as is. These are laws that found their origin in the Napoleon Code, and here. Here we have a common law system. In Haiti we have a different, we have the same Napoleonic code, and they never revised them, those laws, those codes in Haiti. And we don't have a very good team of researchers and specialists to look at these laws to resolve these issues, to come up with better laws to justify the actions that they're committing. You have to also think about many of the parliamentarians. They don't work on legislating, on changing the laws, which should really be their priorities. They are legislators. And another consideration that we're making is that the Haitian Constitution, there are two articles that I really like in them. I have to tell you that Haiti has, even though we don't know what's going to happen with the Constitution right now, perhaps supposedly it's been amended. It is a very nice Constitution. There's a lot of good things in the Constitution. But one of the things that we don't have in it is that we don't have another Constitution. We don't have another Constitution so people can respect the current Constitution that we have, because they never respect the current Constitution. We have an Article 22, which recognizes that the government has people have housing rights, decent housing. It is not like what we have in Jalousie. It is not like what we have in Jalousie. Jalousie. Yeah, there was a professor that was talking about Jalousie earlier. I have to tell you that Jalousie, it is right now, it is completely in pink, because there was a big meeting. I know that there was a meeting that was going to be held. When the tourists come, they cannot look at these ugly pictures. Now they've painted Jalousie, so the tourists can have the impression that there is something that's going on, that's happening, that's good. And this is what the people who do a lot of studies. They say it's clean up the front without really cleaning up doing the fundamental work. So at the international level, what they're doing is giving you the impression that there's something that's really going on in Haiti that's good. We have another one in the Constitution, that's Article 36, which guarantees the right to private property in Haiti. It is the most important article for those who represent. For those we have a minister whose job is to respect the right of people in Haiti, but this is only theoretical. It is this article that says that you have a right to private property, but at the same time, even if you had that very same constitution, in the legal context that we have, they're not going to read the Article 36. You cannot exercise it against the interest of the community. So, so after January 12th, the serious question, even if you're a legal, you're an expert that you can ask, between the interest of the property right of a minority of the community and the interest with the interest of the collectivity, which one should should you prioritize? It is the opposite. The total the sum of action that the current government is making. The kind of government, the kind of state structures that we have is not that much different from what we had before. The current government, what they do is they use the Article 36 at the judicial level to justify the eviction, the forced eviction and arbitrary eviction of the people. And this is what's going to cause in a procedure that we call the privatization of this place. One of the shapes that it took is when, for instance, they want to expel people from a camp. They say that the police is looking for a bandit. I was in a meeting with the general inspector and also in the international committee, and they say that they were looking for bandits. I said to them, well, definitely. What's going to happen is going to destroy everybody, going to kill everybody. You cannot be saying that you're looking for bandits in camp and then you at the same time destroying the camps. Or what they do is they say those people move from this camp and they went to another camp. It is not the people's duty to think of government plan as to how they have to resolve the catastrophe. When you have a president and a government, they didn't vote for him. They didn't vote him like just for no reason. They vote him so he can come up with answers, with responses to the problems that they have. That's why people vote for a government, so the government can resolve these kinds of issues. So that's why they are in power. The other issue that I'd like to underline for you, as a fundamental element in this, when it comes to this question, you have a government, a state that is transforming itself into an NGO. You have a state apparatus that's transforming itself into an NGO. You cannot have a state. You cannot have a state that's building based on little projects. What they do is create commission. What the government is doing is building commission. Rather than reinforcing what you already had, for instance, we have an issue of salary. I'm sorry. I respect the government authorities that are here. For instance, we have a DLS. They came up with a different agency called ECLDD. I have yet to understand why they did that. And then when you don't have a government or state that is coming up with proper regulation, they are creating those commissions because they don't do what the Constitution asks them to do. Now, what the international organization is doing, is they're doing basically the same things. They are under the same dynamism. What I mean is that you have what we call a kind of cacophony of the international community in Haiti. Mr. Mark Scholler is going to talk with us about it a little bit later. You have a series of little projects that are going on, either in education or in health or in agriculture. There is no coordination between these diverse international organizations to try and see how they can find an answer as an alternative to all those problems that we have. It is true that January 12th there was opportunity for people to talk about these issues in a coordinated way, like with UNICEF, but you have yet to get any results. But in this cacophony, this noisy situation, you're going to notice that despite all the efforts in terms of speeches, where they're looking at ways to regulate things, but in reality, they haven't done much to regulate to the NGOs, so they could become even more efficient in certain ways in Haiti. And so we can say that us at DOC, there's a lot of people. A lot of people ask, what do the organizations do? Our goal is to accompany the people, to protect the people when they are arrested. Like for instance, Finel, who is in prison. It's to accompany the people who are being victimized. But when they say that it's the Prime Minister's office that sent a letter against the gentleman, it's a serious issue. That means the government is after the guy just because he's defending people's rights. I wanted to end with telling you this. What's happening in Haiti is a result of many problems. It's a result of this. It's the result of disastrous capitalism. And the way they're saying that Haiti is open for business, and it's all kinds of businesses. And disastrous capitalism cannot give you any better result than what you're seeing that's happening right now in Haiti. And I believe that since there are different organizations that are here, you have also authorities that are here, decision makers that are here. If you really want to see that some things are changed for the better in Haiti, you have to think more deeply about the type of cooperation, international cooperation that we have. Look at more profoundly the state structure, and also look at where you can help the government in the structure. You can have a lot of small projects, but those projects cannot resolve the issues in Haiti. But there has to be a public policy of housing, public policy in Haiti, and it's only the Haitian government that can come up with a housing public policy. So I'm not against what you do completely, but so we're going to stop here. We're going to end it here. Perhaps we're going to be able to reflect even more deeply about some of the issues. I'm saying that there's a better Haiti is possible. Another Haiti is possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for pointing out the deficiencies in the legal system, the negligence of the legislation, the legislators, and the lack of social protection. You also mentioned the lack of coordination of the various programs, and I believe, if I got it right, that too much unregulated NGOs.